Have you ever wondered why the smartest people often end up working for the loudest fools? Why the ones who think deeply, who see the patterns no one else sees, always seem to be ignored, dismissed, or even crushed by those who shout the loudest and think the least? Look around you. The world is full of it. The man with the shallowest ideas somehow ends up in charge. The woman who manipulates perception wins over the one who tells the truth. The confident liar becomes a leader while the quiet visionary fades into the background. Elon Musk gets mocked by journalists who've built nothing. CEOs who barely understand their own companies rise faster than the minds that sustain them. And politicians, half clowns, half actors, get celebrated for selling illusions that any thinking person can see right through. But here's the uncomfortable truth. It's not intelligence that wins in society. It's psychological dominance. The world doesn't reward the one who knows the most. It rewards the one who controls the perception of knowing. It rewards the one who speaks with certainty, even when he's wrong. Because in a world addicted to noise, silence looks like weakness. Reflection looks like hesitation. And hesitation, my friend, is fatal. You were taught that truth would prevail, that logic would triumph, that wisdom would shine through. But that's not how this game is played. This is not a world of merit, it's a world of mirrors. And the one who dares to distort reflection, to project confidence louder than reality, becomes the architect of illusion. So if you've ever felt invisible despite your intelligence, this is not your fault. You've been playing chess in a circus. And today, I'm going to show you exactly why. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you will hear will not only explain why intelligent people keep losing, it will show you how to stop. By the end, you'll see the truth behind the noise, and maybe for the first time, understand how to rise above it. Before we dive deeper, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because every week I share insights like this one. Lessons that pierce through illusion, awaken your inner strength, and remind you of who you really are. Let's begin. Picture this. You're in a meeting room filled with polished smiles and confident voices. The air hums with noise, ideas flying, egos inflating, everyone trying to sound like they know what they're talking about. You sit there, quiet, your mind running through a dozen possible outcomes, evaluating each detail, calculating every risk. You know the plan they're pushing is flawed, dangerously flawed. But you pause. You want to speak, yet something in you whispers, wait, think it through a little more. By the time you've crafted the perfect argument in your head, the decision has already been made. And the loudest person in the room, not the smartest, walks out with applause. Sound familiar? This is how intelligent people lose every day, not because they lack wisdom, but because they overestimate the world's appetite for truth. They assume people want logic, but people crave confidence. They assume honesty matters, but society rewards performance. And while you analyze, they act. While you think, they declare. While you prepare, they perform. It happens in schools too. The student who knows the answer raises their hand, then lowers it again, afraid of sounding arrogant, afraid of being wrong. Meanwhile, the one who didn't even read the chapter blurts out nonsense with conviction and somehow earns the teacher as praise. You can almost hear the universe laughing. In offices and politics, in media, the pattern repeats. The loud rise, the deep drown. And each time, the intelligent person retreats a little further into the mind, telling themselves, I just need to be better next time. Smarter, clearer, more logical. But logic isn't what's missing. What's missing is nerve. What's missing is that unapologetic energy to claim space, to speak imperfectly, to move even when the outcome isn't certain. Because while the intelligent person builds cathedrals of thought, the fool builds momentum. And momentum, not intellect, is what bends reality. You see, the intelligent live in a world of probabilities. They see too much, the variables, the flaws, the risks. That's their gift, but also their curse. It's called analysis paralysis. The mind becomes a cage of possibilities, a hall of mirrors where every reflection says, "Not yet." They mistake their hesitation for humility, their caution for virtue. But hesitation is not humility. It's fear disguised as wisdom. And fear, left unchecked, always bows to boldness. The fool, on the other hand, doesn't overthink, not because he's brave, but because he's blind. He acts without seeing the depth of consequence. And ironically, the world gives him what he demands, because the universe tends to follow energy, not intelligence. Confidence moves the crowd, certainty seduces perception. And perception, not truth, is what runs society. This is why the brilliant artist remains undiscovered while the mediocre influencer makes millions. This is why quiet integrity loses elections while performative outrage wins them. This is why the man who reflects all night ends up taking orders from the one who never reflected at all. Because in a world that rewards noise, silence is mistaken for weakness. And the intelligent, those who feel too deeply, think too much, see too far, end up suffocating under their own insight. But here's the cruel paradox. The intelligent often know what's happening. They see the manipulation, the deception, the spectacle. They see the flaws in the system. Yet that very awareness becomes their cage. Because once you see everything, it becomes hard to move. The fool has freedom in ignorance, and ignorance, in this society, is a kind of armor. So the thinker stays still, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for logic to prevail, waiting for a world that no longer exists. But the world does not wait. It rewards those who dare, not those who dwell. And that's why the paradox hurts so much. You can be right, completely, undeniably right, and still lose to someone who has no idea what they're doing. Because society doesn't care who's right. It cares who acts first, who speaks louder, who moves with certainty while others hesitate. The fool acts, the intelligent doubts. And in a world that rewards action over reflection, doubt becomes a slow form of suicide. If you've ever lived this story, if you've watched someone dumber, louder, or more reckless rise above you, I want to hear it. Tell me your story in the comments. Tell me when your silence cost you. I read every comment myself, and I promise, your experience will help shape the next conversation we have together. If you really want to understand why intelligent people keep losing to fools, you have to stop looking at society and start looking at the human psyche. Because what plays out in the world is only a reflection of what happens within us. The stage of politics, business, and culture is just a mirror of the invisible drama between reason and instinct, intellect and power. Three thinkers saw this battle more clearly than anyone else: Carl Jung, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Niccolò Machiavelli. Carl Jung, the shadow and the persona. Carl Jung once said, "What you repress controls you." Intelligent people lose because they repress their power. They identify with the persona, the mask of being good, rational, and polite. They speak carefully, act correctly, and avoid conflict because they think truth alone should win. But what happens when the world doesn't care about truth? When charisma beats competence and emotion crushes logic, they shrink. To stay good, they bury their darker instincts, anger, ambition, dominance. They hide what Jung called the shadow, the primal, unapologetic part of the psyche that knows how to fight. And every time they silence that side, they lose another ounce of strength. Jung warned that those who reject their shadow become controlled by it unconsciously. They grow timid, apologetic, and easily manipulated. The fool, meanwhile, doesn't repress. He acts without shame, radiating vitality. His ignorance becomes energy. His lack of reflection becomes presence. He wins not because he's wise, but because he's whole. Jung's truth is brutal. If you deny the animal within, you become its prey. Until you integrate the fire you fear, someone else will use it against you. Friedrich Nietzsche, the will to power. Nietzsche took that insight and went further. He said, "The most dangerous weakness is moral superiority." Intelligent people often pride themselves on being virtuous, measured, ethical, civilized. But Nietzsche saw that morality, when used to suppress vitality, turns brilliance into paralysis. While thinkers debate what's right, the bold simply act. While the wise hesitate, the ruthless reshape the board. Nietzsche believed that life itself is a struggle of will to power, the inner force that drives all creation, ambition, and growth. Not political power, but existential energy. The will to shape the world instead of being shaped by it. The tragedy of modern intelligence, he said, is that it has become timid. It analyzes instead of asserting. It explains instead of commands. It seeks approval instead of transformation. The fool may be wrong, but he moves. And motion, in a world of hesitation, becomes dominance. Nietzsche didn't glorify stupidity. He glorified courage. His message was clear. Stop waiting for permission to act. The mind that hesitates becomes the servant of the one who dares. Niccolò Machiavelli, the theater of perception. And then there's Machiavelli, the political realist who stripped away every illusion about human nature. Everyone sees what you appear to be, he wrote, but few know what you truly are. That line explains why truth so often loses to illusion. Society is not ruled by reason, it's ruled by perception. Power belongs not to those who are good, but to those who appear powerful, decisive, untouchable. The intelligent person trusts logic. The fool trusts optics, and optics win. The crowd does not reward depth, it rewards confidence. The one who sounds sure, even when wrong, becomes the voice others follow. That is the cruel law of perception. It is not who's right that shapes the world, but who seems right. Machiavelli didn't celebrate deceit, he revealed it. He showed that life is a stage where every player wears a mask. And if the intelligent refuse to wear one, they become part of someone else's play. He would tell the thinker, learn the art of appearing strong without losing your soul. Truth needs theater. Integrity needs presence. Virtue without strategy is vulnerability. The synthesis, mind, instinct, and image Jung warned us. Know your shadow, or it will rule you. Nietzsche challenged us, embrace your will to power, or be crushed by others. Machiavelli reminded us, master appearances, or disappear from the stage. Together, they point to one truth. The intelligent lose because they live fragmented. They divide themselves, mind against body, truth against instinct, depth against display. The fool, for all his ignorance, is integrated. His shadow and ego are one. He may be shallow, but he's whole. That is why he moves through the world with a confidence that intellect alone can create. If intelligence wants to win, it must evolve. It must stop hiding behind virtue, stop fearing the mask, stop apologizing for power. The goal is not to become ruthless, but real. To think clearly, feel deeply, and act decisively. To unite the philosopher, the warrior, and the performer within you. Only then will intellect stop serving power and start becoming it. Tell me in the comments, which truth hit you hardest, Jung's shadow, Nietzsche's will, or Machiavelli's mask? I'll be reading your reflections personally, because awareness grows through shared insight. Stop worshiping intelligence, because intelligence alone has never saved anyone. You believed reason could overcome chaos, that logic could outshine charisma. That truth would win simply because it was true. But truth without force is a whisper in a hurricane. The world doesn't belong to those who know. It belongs to those who embody what they know. Carl Jung called this transformation the integration of the shadow, the moment you stop pretending to be pure light. Your shadow holds everything you've rejected: ambition, anger, the will to fight, the hunger to win. Society taught you to hide these instincts behind the mask of civility. To stay nice, to stay safe. But what you repress doesn't disappear, it rules you from below. Jung warned, what you repress controls you. The intelligent lose because they've been taught to fear their own power. They overthink when instinct is needed. They speak softly when strength is demanded. They mistake humility for virtue, when in truth, humility without strength is just submission. You don't need to destroy your shadow, you need to claim it. When you face the darkness within, it stops using you. Your anger becomes courage. Your fear becomes focus. Your desire for control transforms into creative energy. Integration is not about becoming ruthless. It's about becoming whole. Friedrich Nietzsche called this transformation becoming the Boldness, the higher being who unites intellect with instinct. He said, "You must become both the thinker and the beast, because intellect without will is paralysis, and will without intellect is chaos." The wise man who never acts and the fool who never thinks are two halves of the same weakness. When you merge thought with instinct, something awakens inside you. You stop apologizing for your clarity. You stop explaining your worth. You stop asking for permission to exist. You begin to move not from fear, but from purpose. Alan Watts once said, "You cannot escape the game. You can only understand it." Awakening isn't about leaving the world, it is about seeing it clearly and refusing to be manipulated by it. The fool shouts for attention. The awakened person commands silence. The fool seeks control over others. The awakened one rules himself. But this awakening has a price. It will burn through every illusion you've used to protect your weakness. It will show you that being good is not the same as being whole. That avoiding conflict is not peace, it's fear disguised as virtue. That playing small for comfort is betrayal of the potential you carry. The intelligent often lose because they want the world to be fair before they fight. The awakened understand the world becomes fair only after they fight. You don't need to abandon your intellect, you need to let it serve your vitality, not cage it. Let logic refine your instincts. Let emotion give warmth to your ideas. Let strength carry your truth where words cannot. Every time you hesitate, the world moves without you. Every time you overthink, someone bolder takes your place. And every time you silence your own voice, a fool gets louder. Ask yourself now, what if losing isn't destiny, but the cost of staying asleep? What if you don't need to become smarter, just more complete? What if the next step isn't learning more, but living what you already know? When the thinker becomes the warrior, the light embraces the shadow, and reflection turns into movement. Intelligence stops being fragile. It becomes magnetic, dangerous, free. That is your evolution. Not to run from the chaos, but to dance with it. Not to hide behind intellect, but to wield it like fire. Because when your wisdom meets your will, even the loudest fool will fall silent. Now I want to hear from you. Have you felt that moment when thinking wasn't enough, when you finally acted from your whole being? Tell me your story in the comments. I read every one of them. And if this message stirred something inside you, don't just watch. Live it. Look around you, it's everywhere. The same pattern that Jung, Nietzsche, and Machiavelli warned us about now plays out on the global stage, digitized, amplified, and monetized. We live in an era where attention is the new currency, and confidence, no matter how hollow, is worth more than truth. The world no longer rewards intelligence. It rewards visibility. And visibility, in our time, belongs to the loud. Open your phone, scroll for 10 seconds. Who gets rewarded by the algorithm? The thoughtful or the theatrical? The careful or the extreme? You already know. The one who shouts, who provokes, who simplifies complex truths into emotional sound bites. They are the ones who rise. Because the machine doesn't care about wisdom. It feeds on reaction, outrage, clicks. The system is built for fools because fools never stop feeding it. Meanwhile, intelligent people hesitate before they post. They think, they self-edit, they consider context. They write one sentence and delete 3. They want to be precise. They want to be understood. But in a world addicted to speed, precision looks like weakness. While they craft nuance, the bold flood the screen. The shallow becomes viral, and the thoughtful becomes invisible. That's the first tragedy. In the age of noise, silence dies unheard. But there's a second, deeper tragedy. Intelligent people, overwhelmed by distortion, withdraw altogether. They retreat into privacy, cynicism, isolation. They say, "It's not worth it," and step out of the arena. And when they leave, the narrative doesn't pause, it gets rewritten by the loudest. When wisdom leaves the room, chaos writes the rules. This is why the fools win, not because they are smarter, but because the intelligent surrender. Not because they are right, but because the wise are tired. You can see it everywhere in American culture. The loudest pundits dominate political debates, not the most informed. Influencers with no substance shape public opinion more than scientists or thinkers. Confidence has replaced competence. Emotion has replaced evidence. We have built a civilization that runs on feelings and collapses under facts. Psychologists call it anti-intellectualism, the cultural bias that treats complexity as arrogance and emotion as authenticity. In this climate, saying, "I don't know," makes you suspect. Hesitation is seen as weakness. Certainty, no matter how false, is celebrated as leadership. And that's why the modern fool thrives. He doesn't think twice. He performs once. He doesn't seek truth. He sells conviction. And conviction, even if wrong, looks heroic to a crowd desperate for direction. Meanwhile, the intelligent mind sits in silence, suffocating under the weight of its own accuracy. The thinker becomes invisible. The scholar becomes irrelevant. The wise man, disgusted by the circus, walks away. But here's the cruel paradox. When the wise withdraw, they leave the stage to the unwise. And the unwise never waste an empty spotlight. You see this even in everyday life. In the office, the loud coworker gets promoted while the quiet expert trains them. In relationships, the manipulator thrives because they know how to appear caring, while the genuinely empathetic partner hesitates, afraid to hurt. In culture, the influencer with filters defines beauty, while the artist who creates it starves. It's not that intelligence has no power, it's that it refuses to play the game of perception. But perception is the game. The truth is painful but liberating. Society doesn't function as a meritocracy. It functions as a marketplace of attention. And in that marketplace, being silent is the same as being extinct. The fools aren't smarter, they're simply louder, bolder, less afraid to fail publicly. They win not because they know more, but because they move more. So what happens next? Either the intelligent keep retreating, or they evolve. They learn how to navigate the noise without becoming it. They understand that mastering the game doesn't mean selling your soul, it means learning how to deliver truth in a language the world can actually hear. Because silence may be noble, but in the modern world, silence does not build revolutions. Voice does. Presence does. Visibility does. And visibility, used consciously, can become a weapon of awakening rather than manipulation. Remember this: the fool screams to be seen. The wise must learn to speak to be understood. It's not about outshouting stupidity, it's about outlasting it with clarity, conviction, and controlled fire. If you've ever felt that frustration watching someone less capable take the spotlight, watching truth lose to performance, share your story in the comments. Tell me where you've seen the loudest win over the wise. I read your stories myself, and your voice matters. Because the first step to reclaiming the narrative is to speak. The world doesn't need smarter people. It needs braver ones. Because in the end, intelligence without courage is just potential energy, never released, never seen, never felt. You can spend a lifetime understanding how the world works and still lose to someone who dares to act without knowing half as much as you do. The difference is not intellect, it's nerve. Every age has its fools who rise to power, not because they are capable, but because they are unafraid. They make mistakes, they fall, they fail publicly, and yet they keep moving. Meanwhile, the intelligent hesitate, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect argument, the perfect proof. But there is no perfect moment. Only the moment you decide to act. So this is your call, not to abandon your mind, but to arm it. To stop using your intelligence as a shield and start using it as a sword. To stop hiding behind analysis and start shaping reality with presence. Carl Jung said that the most terrifying thing for a human being is to fully become oneself. And that's why so few ever do. Because to become yourself means to burn away the masks you've built for acceptance. It means to stand alone, without excuses, and say, "This is who I am, and this is what I will create." You are not here to play small. You are not here to wait your turn. You are not here to prove your worth to those who profit from your silence. You are here to think deeply and act decisively. To speak when your voice trembles. To lead when you feel unready. To live from the fire of your own conviction. The fools win because they are loud, but the awakened win because they are undeniable. They don't shout, they radiate, they don't seek validation. They embody authority, they don't fight to be seen. They become impossible to ignore. So don't shrink the next time you stand in a room full of noise. Let your silence be heavier than their shouting. Let your clarity be sharper than their chaos. Let your presence speak the words they'll never understand. And remember, power doesn't belong to those who scream the loudest. It belongs to those who move the world without needing to. Those who no longer ask for approval because they've built something greater than applause. Self-mastery. If you've ever felt underestimated, unseen, outshouted, let this be the moment you rise. Because the day you stop hiding behind intellect and start embodying your wisdom, the game changes. When you integrate your shadow, when you trust your fire, when you act from your whole being, you stop being the observer. You become the force. So take a breath, look at your life, and decide right now that you will no longer think your way out of your own power. You will live it. The world doesn't need another thinker waiting for proof. It needs you, awake, fierce, unafraid, to build what no one else dares to imagine. Be the mind that thinks and the hand that acts. Stop hiding behind intellect. Integrate your shadow. Rise, because the world may be loud, but you, when you awaken, will be louder than silence itself. Now, before you go, if this message spoke to something deep inside you, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss what's coming next. Every week, we go deeper into the mind, into the soul, into the truths that society is too afraid to face. And I want you to be there first, to rise with every new idea, every new awakening. And tell me in the comments, what part of this journey hit you the hardest? What truth are you ready to live from now? I'll be reading your reflections because this space isn't just about ideas. It's about transformation. Yours begins now.